The Atomic Real Estate Show, bringing you the real estate of real estate. Brought to you by Danny Bennett Productions in partnership with Direct Subs.
This episode is brought to you by Baker Street Partners. Baker Street Partners is a company that specializes in real estate development and restoration in Manayunk and Roxborough. The team is dedicated to enhancing the distinct character of our neighborhood. They have an exciting new project underway, restoring the former steel mill that they call Trent Manayunk, which is going to have some new construction next to it as well as parking. Those interested can join the waitlist to find out more details and what's to come at www.trentmanayunk.com. They also have 6155 Ridge Avenue, which is a new building that sits right along Roxborough's business district with units available to lease now. You can contact them on their website, www.bspdevelopment.com, their email address, rentals@baker-partners.com, or Instagram @Baker Street Partners.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Atomic Real Estate Show. Ryan Dolan here with Nick Cessna. We got an awesome guest today. He does a little bit of everything in the real estate field, just getting kind of his feet wet in a couple different areas. So this is really great for a lot of our first-time buyers, our first-time listeners, and anybody really kind of looking to get in real estate. So we have my friend here and colleague, Doug Carpenter. Doug, how you doing?
Great, yeah.
Awesome
Thanks
for stopping by. So a little bit about Doug. St. Joe's grad, right?
Yes.
All right, awesome. And then he
Prep
works.
or university?
University.
Yeah, I say it like everybody knows. Of course. All right, so what Doug does is he works in real estate in a couple different spaces. He's a real estate agent for Berkshire Hathaway, and he also works in the title insurance game for Fidelity. So yeah, tell us a little bit about kind of the title aspect of things, because what we're looking for, we never had a title agent on the show.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And,
not many people know what title is.
Honestly, it's one of those things that kind of, when you bring it up in the real estate conversation, it may glaze over.
Sure.
It's one of those things people don't understand. One of the things people in the business really don't fully understand, right? So, yeah, tell us a little bit about it, is what you do in title, what title insurance is, kind of things like that. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to this. But, yeah, I mean, title insurance is a part of the real estate transaction. It's optional, but most of the time people are purchasing with a loan, so the lender's going to require a lender's policy. So in that case scenario, it's only a couple $100 more to get yourself an owner's policy, protect your interest. But if you're purchasing cash, it's completely optional, but it's encouraged. And
I've never seen anybody opt out of it.
Usually,
you as a cash buyer, I mean, for me, no, we can't, because you need a lender's policy.
But even,
Right.
all the cash buyers we know, like I've never heard of even anybody opting out.
No, because in this state, we kind of see the title company as more like our attorney, right? Like, or almost somebody as a transaction coordinator that makes sure all the ducks are in a row. Plus,
Correct.
It's affordable.
It's affordable. Number one, state
is.
regulated, right?
yes, state regulated.
So it's based off what, the sale price of the property.
Yeah. The sales price of the property.
I've never actually personally heard anyone opt out of title insurance.
I mean, we have a few cases that come up. Our title agents, they deal with that on a daily basis. It tends to be sometimes cash buyers, but that also falls under the guidance that they may be getting from their real estate agent, unfortunately.
Yeah. And now what about because the only thing I've ever seen, now that we jumped on the lenders and buyer side, is the optional gets kind of waived sometimes, right? It's like the buyer's optional title insurance premium. I'll see that get waived by the client sometimes in a mortgage transaction, but obviously we need the lender's policy
to protect your interest.
Yeah, and so
I wonder if there's a situation where people waive it where it's like a wholesale but not a wholesale, where like you do the double close, so where like you buy it, you pay for the transfer taxes and all that stuff, and then you just the same day you then sell it to the end user. And the reason why wholesalers do that sometimes is because maybe the relationship with the person they're buying it off of, they don't want them to know that they're wholesaling it, and maybe they're getting it for a really good deal and it just can't be wholesaled. There's instances where people just won't sign it where it's wholesale, so they say, you know what, screw it, I'll eat all the fees, I'll double transfer it, so I could see them trying to optimize bottom line.
I don't need
title
before.
I don't need title insurance.
And trying to work some things.
So I could see that being a situation, but other than that, I don't really see a reason why you would ever waive.
It is probably. I agree. I mean, working in the industry, I'm an advocate for title insurance. It really I think people get confused because you when you're purchasing a home, you buy homeowner's policy. So people are like, okay, I'm protected there. Well, title insurance protects the parcel of land that the property sits on. So what a title search does, and these are what your title agents, whoever you work with within a transaction, what they'll do is they usually contract with an underwriter. They write under an underwriter. So in this case, let's say you have a title company and you are a partnered agent of Fidelity National Title. Okay, so great. So you use our production platform, which does the search for you. So you submit all the orders, you get the agreement of sale, you put everything through that system. We have searchers in-house. We have vended out counties throughout the state of Pennsylvania. And they will usually do, a standard search nowadays is like 40 to 60 years. So they take from the point like today and they search back 40, 60 years depending. Trace back the chain of title. So previous owners, they might go back as far as 2 owners because there's some underwriting guidelines that might satisfy that, or they might go back even further, just depending.
So what are they searching for exactly for some of our people that say like, well, why am I buying this?
Correct.
What am I spending thousands of dollars on a title search? What the hell are they even looking for?
It's a good question. I mean, what they're searching for, they're ensuring that no party who ever had some sort of interest in this parcel could ever come back and say, I own a piece of that after you've settled, right? Or they're searching, different judgments, make sure, making sure taxes are paid off, there's no delinquencies, easements, encroachments, things that you really wouldn't think of or know about until they come about. And that's usually the case. When a situation arises, they usually turn to the realtor, who then turns to the title company, and that's how claims come about usually.
So now if you're a cash buyer, you're kind of off market, right? You don't need a real estate agent in there. Like, why wouldn't you get title insurance? Because you don't even know who's number one selling it to you, who has ownership in it. There's always a family member, it seems like,
correct,
could possibly around here be trying to make a quick buck that may not even have ownership in the property.
Especially some of the dirtballs I deal with.
Listen, so like that's why I'm asking you, have you ever ran in any situation on any of your title searches? I'm sure they had to be a mess.
There's stuff where like a lot of stuff came up and there was questions, and then the title handles that with the seller.
Yeah.
And then like they'll say, hey, we just need some clarification from the seller, but everything's going well. We requested documents because they can't really divulge too much to me.
No.
You know what I mean? And they have to come with. The main issue is like death certs and stuff like that.
Correct.
Where multiple people were on it, person died, and then they need to prove that they're dead.
Yes.
And they're not just selling it out from under them. Or,
what about estates? Do you deal with
estate,
estates a lot?
I think the one I just bought this morning was an estate, I believe.
I mean, sometimes those can be so convoluted.
Sure.
With just
especially if they didn't have everything in order.
Yes.
Like you can't just like go to a realtor and be like, hey, my aunt Sally just died. I need you to sell Aunt Sally's house, right?
Yeah, it
like,
doesn't work like
and
that.
some realtor will be like, okay, put a sign out front and try to get it on the market right away. But it's you need a ton of fucking stuff established before that estate has to be established.
Correct.
Everything needs to be
Correct.
all I's dotted, all T's crossed, so it's actually legal. Because then what if somebody pulled some fast one and then I buy it and I didn't have title insurance and all that kind of stuff? I'm kind of fucked.
You're dealing with it on your own.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So
There's
with
no
the estate
protection.
side of things, do you handle or do you know more about that world as well? Like kind of how that chops it up or how it affects your process? Because we get that call a lot from the lending side. Like, hey, what's our next step? Like from an estate standpoint, will planning standpoint. But we never kind of, it never crosses into the title side. So
Sure.
it probably should. And I think that conversation should come up a little more.
I agree. I mean, I would say for you, especially if you're getting that question a lot, you have a title company or somebody at that title company that and you can go to and ask these kind of questions. I would. I mean, that they can unravel the estate. Now, personally, me as a rep for the company, that's not my main responsibility.
Yeah, so
Whereas,
tell
like,
us a little
agents
bit about,
call
because
me.
we were talking about pretty much the job function of a title agent, title clerk.
Correct.
You are what's called a title rep. So
Yep.
what it is kind of with Fidelity that you do, like what's your job function?
Yeah, I mean, mainly my responsibility is to bring in new business, but also manage, like I have a book of business, a book of agents, not mine, but the company owns, but I manage and support those relationships.
Okay.
Whatever they may need along the way, they have problems throughout the day that might come up at closing. They need to get hold of one of our attorney underwriters to kind of work through that situation so they can go and close that day, or if not the next day. So it's a lot of that and just managing the relationship.
So how does a guy, all right, for the listener kind of, all right, you get out of St. Joe's University, title insurance. You're not thinking, all right,
Yes.
I'm going into the title game. But what does that look like on a day-to-day basis for a title rep? Is it kind of almost like farmer sales where you're kind of going into the office unannounced and seeing if you could establish a relationship? Or is it, a mix of commercial resi relationships? Like, how does it look? Because when you say, hey, the book of business, right? That turns a lot of people away, especially, guys getting into the industry because they don't have a book of business.
No.
They don't even know what title insurance is. So
Correct.
why would you get into it? And what does it look like for the guy kind of getting out of college or starting off, like going into these offices and establishing the relationship?
Yeah, it's an industry that no one really knows about, right? So the joke, the common
Everybody uses,
saying,
but no one knows about.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the common saying is everybody gets into the title industry because they were either related to somebody within the industry or they just got pushed into it. They knew somebody that needed a job and they gave it to them.
Couldn't pass their Northwestern Mutual
Right.
Series 6 and things like that. They go into title.
Yeah. But being a rep is the day-to-day. It's very flexible. It reminds me a lot of what I was doing as a realtor prior to coming over to Fidelity. And, one day you could have 3 appointments, right? So you're meeting with agents, talking about mid-year numbers, where they want to be going into the next year. The other day you could be in the office just prospecting, like finding the people that you want to target most. Then the next day you could be on the road, right? Just popping into these offices. It's sales.
Yeah, so
right?
it's very similar to what we do from the outside
Correct.
sales on lending side, plus what the real estate agents do on their side. It's like no 2 days real, they look alike each week, but they
Yes.
don't really look alike back to back.
So I imagine that the title insurance companies are probably old, big
I was just about to
companies.
get into that,
Probably
yes.
not many of them around, right? So there's old school just juggernauts
Yes.
of companies that
I'm
have been doing it
glad
forever.
you brought that up because it is such an old industry, and that's really what it is. So someone like me, I'm the youngest at my agency, and there's a lot of opportunity that comes with that, right? The aging out of the business, there's a huge gap. Not many people are aware of this industry at all. So
How'd you get into it? Did your dad know somebody?
No.
Your family knew somebody?
So an old girlfriend of mine, this is prior to dating her, but I knew her from high school. Her mom, we might have to cut this out. We might have to cut this
Hopefully
out.
she's not listening.
But, I would say this. My state manager, her son is best friends with my brother. I grew up with him as well. And then my sales manager, I knew her daughter growing up through high school.
Okay.
And I was getting ready. I was doing real estate and going to school full time at the time. We'll get into that later, but it was coming out of COVID, and I was showing homes like at night when I should have been writing papers.
Oh, this is when you were actively showing, as a real estate agent.
Yep, and
which was one of the most difficult
And
times.
you were still in.
I'm
your,
still
last year in
I
college
just
or
got
something.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that must have been fun. College, COVID, and
It was a mix.
showing real estate.
It was a
So
mix,
that
man.
was-
It was a
So you
mix.
just
God, that's
stumbled upon the
hell on
job.
earth.
Someone was like, "Hey, I got this opportunity."
Well, yeah, I kind of stumbled in, and I just went and had a conversation with my sales manager and my state manager now, and just to kind of get some direction on where I could pivot beyond real estate, because I've been doing that at that point for about 4 years, and I was like, all right, it's time for a change. Like, I'm getting ready to graduate in about a year. Do I go and work for a big, large insurance company? Do I stay in the real estate industry, which I like? And I almost ended up going into mortgages, but
Okay.
it wasn't even an interview.
They're all
we
assholes.
I was going to say,
yeah, I mean,
Good
you
choice.
dodged the
Good
bullet.
choice you to do that.
but it wasn't even like an interview, and they said, you know what, there's actually a great opportunity to come in under one of the seasoned reps that's been in the industry for a very long while, and we want you to finish school. Come and finish school. We'll pay you this. You can learn a ton, soak up as much as you can. And it was similar to what I was doing in real estate. That's how I came into real estate.
Now, when you went
So I
in,
was like, let's do it.
did you see a bunch of seasoned faces, and you were I'm young. Like, what am I doing here? But then, did you notice hey, there's an opportunity here because it's such a seasoned place. I could really excel here.
Not right away. I struggled. I went I mean, it's sales, and you guys know.
See, this is what we like to hear because it's not pretty in the beginning,
no.
especially in an industry like that. That's old school.
It's a different sales.
It's a different kind of sales, right? It's not just
not
throwing
a quick
on
sell.
Yeah,
Man. It is not a quick sell.
Nobody's coming to you.
No.
So you're going to them. You're working a deals that take months to kind of put together.
They take years sometimes. Like just being on the relationship.
And can be taken away from you in a heartbit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And that's one of the biggest pain points I faced coming into this business. Because it was hard. I had no agents, right? We call them legacy accounts. They've been with Fidelity. They're very loyal, just been with us forever. And some of those accounts are even older than I am.
Sure.
Right? And so they give you some of these accounts just to kind of get established, which is great. I'm glad they do this because not all major underwriters do this sort of thing, I'm sure. So you're kind of learning as on the go as you normally would jumping into a new business. But man, it is tough. Like you go through cycles where you're just like, am I in the right industry, right? Because you're young, you're coming out of school. You're like, do I pivot again? And then it's just like, you're kind of in that mid-20s thing. You're like, am I where I need to be?
And
right?
you're looking at guys that have
pressure,
decades and
boring
decades of
correct.
relationships, and you're like, wait, this is like a lifelong kind of process.
It
here.
is.
So
it is.
It's a boring industry.
Yeah,
it's not a sexy business.
No,
I say that
it's
all the
fucking
time.
boring.
It is
Plus
so.
Look, and not to come at it under attack as well, right? Like, I mean, there's some sides of our world that wants to do away with title.
Sure.
Completely, right? Use track
Especially
systems.
this year.
And I've talked with people very high up that think it's not a useful tool. They think it slows down the process. They think it costs way too much money for the consumer. So kind of tell us what you think pros and cons wise there, because what's the argument against that?
Yeah, I think that's valid. I mean, we had a lot of that this year, especially there is the attorney opinion letters. I don't know if you are familiar with them or heard of them. I don't know about if you've heard of them. They've been around for a while, but they just resurface like every year, and it's been going on for a couple years now. And really what it is that there's attorneys out there, practicing attorneys, whether they're heavily involved in real estate practice or not, but they basically provide an opinion. It's an opinion. On the title, they search the public record, even if they know how to search, which probably not many of them do.
All right.
And they provide their opinion, saying, in my opinion, everything's good and clear. I did my search. You're good to go, right? And some lenders are pushing for this. I don't know if it's you guys.
No, I know some lenders that are definitely pushing for it. That's why I asked.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
we
they're
are not
pushing for it. But the problem is now there's no insurance.
Who's that liability fall on?
Exactly. That's what
So
I'm
the people
saying.
that are pushing for it, the liability's not falling on them, so they don't give a
There
shit.
is no
So it's big
insurance.
mortgage companies trying to push for it because it's speed.
Yep.
They can deduct some things off the bottom line for the consumer, but they don't have the liability. So of course they're going to say, "Hey, let's do away with this," because they're not falling on the sword when things go wrong.
That's exactly it.
Right?
And even to that point.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I don't know shit about what you guys
but that's
about what
spot
these
on.
things you are talking about, but
That-
just from the outside looking in.
So that's the one
spot on.
argument, right? Now, I'm kind of in the middle here, right? Because I consider our title agents very good partners of ours. I've made lifelong friends throughout that industry as well.
Absolutely.
But I could also see both sides of the argument. Now, I right now where it's at, there's no way you can do away with it, right? It's like and our industry changes. It always evolves. So if there becomes a time, how are you going to streamline it? Like, how's that going to work? Because if you do it now, just to save a couple $1,000s, I think you're doing everybody a disservice. And how do those opinion letters hold up and say, litigation? Is
Who's the work fall on?
That's up in the air
So-
until something comes about
What are these
where there
lawyers-
is an issue.
Yeah.
Do these lawyers expect like realtors to then do that? Because let's be honest, half of the realtors don't know how to do anything their job without a transaction coordinator.
Yep.
I would say like a good 40% of realtors nowadays, especially younger ones that are spoiled with these bigger companies
And
that
they have
have
no
these
training
transaction
anymore.
coordinators.
There's no training.
The transaction coordinators do their entire fucking job.
Correct.
They're just like a pretty face doing sales, doing some marketing, and then there's people behind the scenes doing all the work. So you mean that some of these lawyers are probably going to say, "Oh, well, then the realtors have to do it too." Get the fuck out of here.
It will probably play into that game where they're trying to throw the blame or throw the work on somebody else. That's how it'll go. Time will tell what's going to happen, but I don't see that becoming the reality because you're relying on, if the attorney, I'm sure they have E&O insurance, you're relying on that. Like, does it hold up against that, their E&O coverage? And depending on how much liability they have, you may not be covered. I mean, it's really up for interpretation, up in the air. But the other thing too is the realtor's not going to be able to do anything, right? There's no insurance backing. Whereas if there was a claim to come about that you needed to submit, where do you submit it?
Yeah, who are you even submitting it to?
Right. So just
and everyone's going to backtrack. The mortgage person's going to backtrack. The realtor's going to backtrack, and they're going to be like, it's like that. It's like that Homer Simpson thing, like sliding back into the bushes.
Nobody wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to deal with it. So just pay for an owner's policy, a lender's policy if you're obtaining, a mortgage, but cover yourself in the event that something does happen. You can file a claim with us. That's what we're an insurance company. That's what we're here for. And the funny thing is, these lenders that are pushing for these AOLs, I don't know if you know this.
So tell everybody what it is.
So an attorney opinion letter, it's an AOL is what they call it. The lenders are they're asking our settlement agents at these title companies, just the title company, I guess, in general, to sign off saying they'll indemnify the lender in the event that something were to go awry. Well, title companies aren't rich. They're not. No. They're usually small businesses that, whether they're mom and pop or it's an affiliated business arrangement with some people, some realtors or lenders.
They make their money on volume.
Correct. And there's really not a lot of profit margin after all, after everything that's said and done, right? The premium's only so big because it's regulated, and it's based off of the sales price. Sure. So there's not a lot. When you break down the premium dollar, there's very little left over.
So it sounds like with
they're nice small businesses similar to that of like insurance agents that have their own like kind of shop, thing, like an Allstate thing. Like
correct. Yeah.
So like you make as much as how hard you work,
the volume,
and how many realtors are coming into you and closing and all that. Like Chris over at Class, like I use Chris all the time because I can text or call Chris right now and he'll answer the fucking phone.
Yep.
Right? And I can have a question about title, about this, about that, and he answers it. Or he'll shoot me a text back like, yo, I'm in a settlement. I'm going to call you back at 1:00.
Correct.
So it's like having that relationship with people that you can trust. And I would never go to like a huge title company that's just because you're nobody to them.
Well,
you're fucking nobody.
That's sometimes the downfall. You just can't service the agents as well as you could if you're more lean and mean.
So what about Fidelity? Like in your role with Fidelity, are you coming in? Are you looking for what's that kind of target for you? Is it mom and pop title agencies? Is it big commercial agencies? Like what is it? Or is it a mix of everything?
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Mix of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we try to do our own vetting. You definitely have to, which I've learned, when I first started out, it's like, just get out there. Like sign anybody.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Because you're making money. Yeah, I get salary, but salary's minimal compared to what you make on the commissions, right? But now, as I'm going into my 4th year, you start to really narrow things down. So you're qualifying a prospect even before setting foot in. You're trying to figure out right away, if you go in asking the important questions, like how much business do you do? You know who they write for. They might write for some other major underwriters, but it depends. I mean, it could be a humming mom and pop shop. It could be one of those larger title companies that are affiliated with the real estate company. It just really depends. And the commercial, if it's a humming commercial operation, that's great. Because, commercial deals tend to be in the millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. That premium is a lot more.
But those deals, of course, obviously take much longer than your traditional resi transaction.
Yeah, they're not settling within 30 days.
So now kind of like an industry as you're a little under fire, right? But it's consistent. It's been consistent throughout time.
Yep.
You mentioned prior in college, I think you said you held a real estate license as well, or were you practicing to sell real estate? So tell us kind of about that, why you then pivoted out. And then I know you were kind of kicking around the idea of you're jumping back in or getting back in. So you tell me, where you're at there.
Yeah. So I graduated high school in 17 and
17. For our younger viewers.
Yes. So I graduated 17 and I was the first. I'm the oldest.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Horsham, like Happer Horsham area.
Is that where you went?
I went to Happer Horsham.
play ice hockey there?
No, I did not. Did not play. I played lacrosse and soccer,
Okay.
but lacrosse mainly. And so anyway, I graduate.
That wasn't even a thing when we were
No, but we know a couple guys that
Do you?
know that work. Well, my brother played at St. Joe's. My brother was a D1 St. Joe's
Really?
lacrosse player. My youngest. Yeah, he was. Way off topic here, but
he's
hey,
also,
Sean, what's up?
He's,
If you ever
also a
listen.
unicorn. I'm
Yeah,
still
so,
not convinced he exists.
he graduated from high school. I don't know, maybe in 05 or something like that. But as he played kind of our traditional sports in this area, like football, basketball, he realized like I'm small, I'm shifty, I'm fast. And I'm smart. Like, go to St. Joe's. He played for 4 years. He was starter a couple years.
Oh, cool.
And then even played over University of London. So I don't know how the hell we got there.
No,
but,
no.
But yeah, that's a little common thread. I know when we met each other, there was the St. Joe's Hawks University kind of deal. So
it's always great when you can meet some fellow Hawks. They have a great networking.
Speaking of Hawks, not to get too off topic.
No,
but
you're good.
That
You're
fucking hawk that flaps his wings all the time. Like, first off, if you ever watch the basketball games on TV, like the mascot is flapping the wings like slow like this the entire thing.
They have
the entire
to.
time.
They have to.
That's like you get a full scholarship to do that job.
Yes, you do.
And you have a tryout. And the tryout is the last man standing with the fucking wings when they need
got
to
that jack shoulders to get a free
Dude,
ride.
imagine that. You're just doing
So what
like
do you got to
laps
do?
the whole time.
Every sporting event, a game
It's
event?
not only sports.
It's like pep rally.
You're
You're
doing
there.
every single event that school holds.
Do you know anybody that was ever the mascot?
I don't.
What
I
are their
don't. I wish
shoulders
I
and
did.
arms?
I mean,
are
they're
they just like
big.
walking around
They're
like
big. Yeah, with skinny legs.
Yeah,
You know?
Jesus Christ!
All right, so after the St. Joe's Hawks stuff, all right,
Yeah.
so we get in, or you start practicing for real estate in college, right? So is that what you went to school for?
No. I went to school for risk management and insurance.
Okay.
So yeah, not to get off topic again, but my dad did try to push me to be the Hawk because he wanted, he didn't.
Yeah, you don't want to pay that
I
bill,
know,
dude.
I know.
Of
No,
course.
I'm laughing. So I just reminded me. He was like, "Oh, why don't you get in there?" And then I wasn't the Hawk, and he's like, "ROTC." I'm like, "Dad, I don't like. Just let me experience it. You just let me go and do it."
I was trying to save that money.
Yeah, I know he was.
Little Dicky, save that
If you
money.
knew my dad, it's to a T. And the sad thing is I'll probably turn into him a little bit. I already see it happening.
I love it.
But so I went first year college, right out of high school. I came back my winter, like the fall, the winter after you're done with the fall, first semester, and I just was not doing well in school at all. I was just struggling with the transition,
Partying.
doing stuff wasn't.
Were you in a frat?
I was not actually. St. Joe's is like it's more of
It's not a big frat school, right?
No, and the frats are smaller, so
It's
it wasn't a party.
It's a big commuter school.
Yes, big commuter school. So I finished out the first year, but I ended up commuting the second semester because my parents were like, "Look, we're not paying
Room and board here when you live
If you're
15, 20
fucking
minutes
around,
away. Yeah,
It's like you're gonna commute, but you're gonna have to get a job."
Sure.
Okay, great. Well, I didn't want to work on the weekends. That was that was my hangout time. So I don't know why I interned at Berkshire Hathaway in Bluebell here when I was in high school for a class, and I reached out to the broker and I said, "Hey, is there anything I can do around the office just get paid like during the week?" And she's like, "There's really nothing you can do, but you can come on. There's a few agents that might need like a transaction coordinator or just a personal assistant." So I was like, "All right, that sounds easy enough."
Sure.
So there was 2 realtors, and the one I'm still partners with, but there was 2, and the other one reached out first, and I forget what ended up happening. I don't think we ever ended up meeting. And then Danielle, my partner now, she reached out and she's like, "Oh my God, so sorry. I didn't see this. You sent it to my wrong email. Here's my email, but I'm seeing this now." So we ended up meeting, and I was 18 at the time.
Wow.
And she didn't know that. So meeting goes well.
How much experience did she have at the time?
She was in the business for probably about 14 years at that point.
Oh, okay. So she's established.
Seasoned, yeah. And so she hires me. I think it was in the beginning of the year, back in, it would have been 2018. And then 6 months of transaction coordinator. I'm like, "Oh, this is great. Like, I like real estate a lot. You're young. You're just happy to kind of be out and about. I'm going to school, doing the thing." And then I get my license that August, and I was just like, "Wow, this is great," because it opens doors up to more opportunities. You can go and show homes. You can kind of start building your own clients. Now, my sphere of influence at that point, nobody's buying a house.
Yeah, it takes time. It always starts with your
19.
yeah.
Yeah, but they're renting.
Yeah, the rent. I did a couple rentals. I mean, that's what you do when you first start out. I mean, they're a pain in the ass. I mean,
but for younger guys, it pays the bills, starts
$200
building.
to earn off
They
of
add
that?
up. They
Not
stack.
bad.
And it's a future business.
Yep. So I was actually going. I left St. Joe's. I went to Montgomery County Community College, and I went there for 2 years. And
This is a beautiful campus.
It's
by the way.
great. I wish I did that out the jump.
Yeah.
Because traditional school model was really never my thing. I always have to be moving. Like if I'm not moving, I'm usually getting into stuff I probably shouldn't be getting into.
Sure.
Or it's just.
This episode is sponsored by LK Miller. LK Miller has proudly been serving the greater Philadelphia area's commercial construction needs since 1990. As a commercial general contractor, whether it's office, medical, industrial, retail, or beyond, LK Miller has been building it for 3+ decades. To learn more, call President Jason Scholl at 484-213-8793 or email him at jason.scholl, SCHOLL, at lkmiller.net. Check out their website, www.lkmillerinc.com, and follow them on Instagram at lkmcommercial. So going to like a bigger school, like you could get lost. Like it ends up being sometimes like 13th grade. I never went to college. I went straight to the military. I never even finished high school. But I see from all my friends' experiences and stuff like that, like it ends up being 13th grade basically.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you got caught up in a little bit of that, and your parents came down on you like, "Hey, motherfucker, we're paying all this money."
Yeah. I don't.
It makes sense.
Yeah. When I got home, and thanks for your service, by the way. When I got home that winter break, my parents were asking, they want to see my grades, right? Because they're invested.
Sure.
So I just put it off. I had my grades, and I was ashamed to say. I mean, I'll just say it. I was sitting at like a 2.6, and in high school I wasn't like star student, but like I had like a 3.4. Like I was doing all right. So
you got to do it
that's
on your own.
when
You have to do it on your own now.
Yeah, do it on your own.
And the teachers
Time
don't give a shit if
management.
you don't do it. They're not telling you,
No.
"Hey, you're not doing." You're
They
paying
don't
to
care.
be. You're paying to be there.
Yep.
So like they're gonna teach, and if you don't participate, it's.
Oh, yeah.
That's why a lot of these like preparatory schools and like certain schools that like get on the kids and teach them to like study on their own and all that stuff, that that's a great help to these kids.
It is.
And I'm seeing it now, like with my son going from 8th grade to freshman year at Roman this year, and he's like, dude, I almost want to go back to grade school. Like this shit's not easy. And I'm like, shut up.
not.
It's fucking easy. Shut up. It's Roman, dude.
Yeah, it's Roman. That shit was hard.
But he's an honors. He ain't like us.
I was going to say, that was hard. Even at second or third
track 3 all-star.
It was hard. But
Yeah, but they should. I mean, that's most important. They should. I mean, maybe they did condition me at Happer Horsham. I'm not faulting, but
that's notoriously a pretty good school.
yeah. It's a great school. I had a great time there. Met lifelong friends, but it's a hard transition when you're going into college as a freshman. I mean, you might be barely 18. I was 18 at the time. There's nobody. When you're in high school, there's a schedule, right?
yeah.
Go to school at this time. If you're doing extracurriculars after school, you're going to practice. At night you're doing homework usually.
Plus, mom and dad are on your ass. You're right there in their living
like
room.
you're in their own home. When you get to college and you're living down there, I mean that there's no schedule. I mean, yes, you have your course schedule, but you could be done your like 3 courses in 3 hours of the day. Mm-hmm. Like, what else do you do the rest of the day? And I struggled with that. I was like, well, I don't know. And at the time, like, I might go to the gym.
Yeah.
But like after that might be a 45, 50-minute session.
Sure.
What the hell am I going to do?
Partying.
Yeah. So, where I'd sit in the library, I'd sit there, listen to music, not really get anything done.
Sure.
So that all caught up with me. And so my second semester, freshman year, my parents were like, you're going to commute. I'm like, okay. Wasn't overly pleased, but I thought that was probably the best decision for me. Finished out my freshman year. That's at that point when I decided to commute, that's when I started talking. I had to get a job. So I met up with a broker at Berkshire Hathaway, where I interned there in high school, and she was like, look, I don't have anything for you here, but some agents might need a personal assistant and transaction coordinator. So there was 2 people. The one never really worked out. Now the one I'm partners with.
The one with the 14 years
Correct,
experience.
Yep. So, she hires me. I'm 18 at the time, turned 19 that February. And that August, I ended up getting my license so I could just do more, help her out, kind of be on the team. I left St. Joe's at the end of my spring semester in 17-18 year. went to Montgomery County Community College, had a great experience there, like kind of got me back on track, got my confidence back, and like I can do school, but I can also work. I need that. I can't just go to school and go home. You know what I mean? Like I have to keep moving. So I did my 2 years there, was still working in real estate, building up. And then it ended up just, I don't know how it happened, but I ended up transferring back into St. Joe's. I applied to some different schools like Temple, commuter distance. I did LaSalle. It just ended up working out. Like St. Joe's had a program that was tailored for working professionals. So I was like the youngest one, but it's tailored for like people that might want to go back and get their degree, right? But they have a full-time job, they have kids, they have a family at home. So I went that route, and it was significantly cheaper than a regular undergrad.
Nice.
So I was able to work, do this program, and still come out in 2 years. So it took me 5 in total, but finished my 2 years there, graduated in 22.
But you graduated with working experience.
Working experience.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, I did it throughout college bartending, obviously taking night classes with working professionals as well. Because one, I had to pay the bill for the school, but two, you do learn a ton in those working kind of, because not everybody's like dicking around in college. No. Like the day classes are people that are just crawling there going through the motions, right?
It's good networking,
but
too.
It's awesome. I mean, I can still remember, big time guys I met from J&J and things like that, because I went to Gwinnett. That's right near, where you're familiar with. So, a lot of pharmaceutical sales and things like that. And that was the direction I was heading into kind of before real estate. So
you're not good looking enough for that.
I know. I quickly noticed that. That's why I'm here with you guys. But once I saw a couple of the people walking into the doctor's offices and things like that, I see like, this isn't going to work for me. So,
but it's true.
Yeah, the first time I seen your wife, I was like, she's got to be pharmaceutical sales. Like your wife's always real put together. Really, his wife's a really good looking woman. She's really put together, friendly. I was like, she's got to be in pharmaceutical.
That's
sales.
just a Roxborough outkick your coverage.
Is it?
That's kind of what we do. Anything. Every guy from Roxborough knows it's not like an unwritten rule. Just try to outkick your coverage.
I like that term.
And then kind of keep moving. But
I like that.
I know.
Term.
I'm pretty sure my wife is not watching, so we'll be all good. But all right, so you're in there. You got working experience, which again I love because I did the same stuff in college as well, like multiple different jobs, kind of real life experience. When you look at other guys and say like, well, they're just kind of they can't wait to play baseball at D3 and they waste 4 years doing this. Like you're wasting time.
They come out and they're like,
and
what do
to
I
your
do
point,
now?
like you keep moving. Getting into real estate sales though, you're back and forth between title and real estate sales. So now, kind of how you and I met. We met at the gym and we talked. We would meet, talk, once a month, kind of. I don't know if it's a mentorship or not. It was just kind of like, hey, he's got ambition. He's a young guy. We work at the same time and he's in the same field. So let's chat. So now he's thinking about or do you have your real estate license? I don't even know. So you're back in that side of the thing.
That space.
Because, well, one, you want to keep your options open. Obviously in this business, it's always, you want to learn each side.
Isn't it funny though? Like to think about now, like we're fucking old.
I know.
Like,
I know.
Like you see like a younger guy.
Somebody asked me
in the business, and you're like, how can I help them? Right? You don't look at them as competition. I know. Like that. You kind of like how can I help them out? And he's talking about dates like 18, 19. Like I was retiring from my first fucking career.
My brain doesn't even pick up like it's 7. I graduated 17. I'm like 17 of what?
Yeah,
right. Like it does not compute yet. No, but somebody asked me, they were like, "Are you mentor?" And I'll be asked that a lot. And I said, no, I just kind of do business with people that I like, that I kind of see myself in, right? Because the beginning, it's hard as hell. Like, right? When you're in your 20s, one, that shit is so confusing because you just don't know what you're doing, right? Yes. And you don't know if you're sitting down with an idiot. You don't know if you're sitting down with someone that's got an angle on you. So you just don't, and then you just don't know the job, right? So you don't know it until you get in there. That's why I like how you had real world experience. One, to even call a broker in college, right? Like that's a call that 99% of people I know probably would have never made, right? So that is an interesting one that I know people would find some value in. It's because it's like you're sitting in college, you're just like, shit, should I have been in trade? Should I have done this?
Well,
and then you picked up the phone and you're rocking with like a 2.2 GPA and you're like, well, let me see if I can be a real estate agent. Because you needed that balance, right? That school and work balance. Yeah. So what do you got planned for moving forward with the real estate, license?
Yeah, it's very new. I had my license in escrow with the state. You can have it up to 5 years. And, we were talking a couple months back and I'm like, I'm thinking about getting back into it because My Fidelity thing, it's Monday through Friday. I'm an early riser, so there's some time in the morning. You can find pockets of time to work on other things. People have side businesses all the time. So I was like, you know what? I finally said, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I was like, I'm just going to retake the education, get this done. So I got everything done, my education. You have to go.
That's your first step, right? For our college listener or even high school, anybody younger, your first step when you're searching the internet, you got to, there's an entry level kind of to get in.
Oh yeah,
it's there's continuing ed. It's not
significant.
The barrier's a little low.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but there still is requirements and continuing ed and things like that.
Yep.
So you went through all that stuff. So you
have to do that shit too, right?
Oh yeah, we have to do continuing ed for each license individual.
Is yours every 2 years?
It depends on the state. So you'll have your federal license, and then each individual state that you work in. The previous company that I was at was actually a bank, so I was licensed in all 50 states prior.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends on the company you work for, how they hold their license. Right. But yeah, if you have a Georgia license and it may require 8 hours or something like that, you better make sure it's worth doing business down there.
Correct.
Or just run it through a state desk. But I'd imagine kind of how does the licensing situation look like, and what are some of the things that you just got to push through in order to kind of get your feet there and start doing the game
in real estate specifically?
Yeah, for sure, because we have people that just don't even know where to go. Like they don't have mentors, right? And you seem to have one in college when you picked up that phone.
Absolutely.
And we've closed her transaction together. She's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, because the people listening to the show are the ones that want to know kind of how to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think just starting out in the business now, if you're just going out there, you're a new agent, there's not a lot of training anymore at some of these brokerages. They just don't train the agents, which I think is very, very scary. You should find, I'm an advocate for this, I think you should find either a small, high producing team that's maybe doing 20 to 25, 30 transactions maybe in the year. Like that's a good fit where you're going to get some attention. You're going to get some guidance, right? As maybe you're working leads and stuff, because that all matters. Like you don't know what the hell you're doing. You have no idea. You've never done this before. You have no experience. So you don't know how to communicate with a client. You don't know how to properly follow up with a client. When you get a deal in your negotiations, this is all stuff that you need a mentor for. And having one like I did when I first started out with Danielle, was tremendously helpful. And it not only helped me there, she is so meticulous and so detailed that she was having me read title commitments, mortgage commitment letters. Like I'm reading these with
this is stuff a lot of agents definitely
they don't do.
Yeah.
But she wanted me to learn every aspect. She even taught me how to properly email. Like you think that's something, anybody.
Nick and I are laughing at that.
Yeah.
Look, because we just throw kind of whatever in an email, but obviously there's a professional way to craft it.
In certain things,
Absolutely,
right? There's certain
sure.
things that you have to, manipulate a message to where it's factual, because when you're in negotiations, it's high emotions, right? Because you're feeling the emotions of your clients. They have the emotions of their clients. It's a risk game of poker for you guys, right? If you divulge too much information.
You also got to learn what to, not to hide from your clients, but what to kind of keep away from them. There's certain things in negotiations that can be handled between agents, and you don't really want that stress to be on the buyers. And I say it all the time. You want buyers to come into a house without animosity. You want them to walk in the door with the keys without any kind of animosity.
Correct.
And you see some of these agents approach things where it's they approach it almost like you're dealing with a used car salesman, and you're just hammering and hammering and hammering. And I don't agree with that, because then when the people push back, now you're creating this negative environment, and then your buyers are and then by the time they get in the house, it was an awful experience, and it's this animosity, and then they're like, I don't even want to fucking be in this house.
Yep. Or they'll never use. They probably will never ever call that.
Yeah, look,
again.
And we're referral based, right? So it's
it's
it's gotta work out. You hate when and look, that's the reality of it is it does happen like that sometimes.
You're dealing with a lot of personalities.
Yeah, right. You're dealing with a lot of hands in the cookie jar. A lender could drop the ball, title could drop the ball, real estate agent, anybody really could kind of screw up a deal. Absolutely. That's why it's unique in itself, and it takes a different kind of individual to get into this business, because things are always different. No two files are alike. The ones you think may be the smoothest and the biggest waste of time or whatever, they always turn out differently, right?
Always.
Just kind of like this show, right? We put this thing together,
Yes.
it took on a life of its own, and now we've met, so many great people that are kicking knowledge to the young guys because like when I met you, I was like, all right, this guy's doing things differently that experienced agents are not doing, right? Like reading title and mortgage commitments, kind of he's out in the middle of Lancaster, out in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, where are you today? And he's like, I'm at a disappointment. So like, I just know guys that won't do it, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I see that. And to your point, yeah, shit, we got old because I guess when I was asked, am I mentoring this person or that? I'm like, I'm in no position to mentor anybody, right? But yeah, here we are. And this is kind of the new generation. So as real estate's a lot different. You got indoor, right at COVID. Now you're out.
Yep.
Now you're dealing with a whole new set of challenges. So where do you see yourself in the residential side, the commercial side? Like where are you at?
I really don't have a lot of experience in commercial. I've never done a commercial deal, never been involved in one.
Okay.
So it would probably be resi. Mm-hmm. I saw an opportunity because I'm 25, going to be 26 in February of the new year, and I was talking to you about this. I'm going a lot more weddings and stuff, so it's kind of you're getting to that next milestone. I think when you hit 25, I had a quarter life crisis, definitely. Like there were some months where I'm like, what the hell is what am I doing, right? But there's a lot of people
can't be
now.
on mom and dad's insurance.
No, and that's a big one. I know. Open enrollment's now open at Fidelity. I got to figure all that stuff out. But people are starting to get married and stuff. So if I can be the knowledgeable agent to try and provide some transparency into the real estate industry as a whole, right? Because you look at a lot of clients, a lot of your clients have no idea about the process. They're usually contacting the lender first. I would say.
I mean, the way my business kind of went is, being local and being around here, but doing it for so long, it takes time, right? Like my, when I was in the industry, they said, if you don't have like 3 or 4 years to build your book of business, you're going to have a tough time.
Yes.
Now I've seen many younger guys succeed quicker, right? Because there's more education out there. People are working quicker, smarter, technology's better, right? Yep. But when I got in, it kind of wasn't like that. It's like you really had to cultivate every relationship. And as corny as it sounds, your first deal's your brothers, your mom, your dad, your sisters, your aunt, your uncle. And guess what? One of those deals is going to go bad, right? So it's like, and then you're like, shit, like, as long as you did right on a couple of them, then you branch out. So like,
and that's how you grow.
Yeah, I mean, it's how you grow, right? And then
you have to get in there.
Yeah, and if you're in there, you're gonna fuck up, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna make some mistakes, and that happens, right? But you got to. It's how you kind of respond to them. Make it better, to your point, because you don't want a client to walk into a home and say, like, these guys suck. Like, I'm never using them again. It rarely happens in our transactions, but sadly, it does, right? Yes. Somebody was the bad apple.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean. So you have perspective, you have the vision to say like, all right, I'm 25, 26. Your people are going to be buying houses, and that's just the way it is.
In the next few years.
Or making decisions to rent again.
Yep.
Hey, I'm going to rent for another year. Yeah. And then that's where you can come in. All right, I'll help you rent.
Sure.
And then.
Because they'll eventually.
We love the rental strategy.
You help somebody rent once or twice, then they're going to buy with you.
Sure.
And then, you establish relationships with different lenders, and you're like, oh, wait, I know this lender. That's Ryan does these kind of things for people coming out of med school and stuff like that. Oh, hey, like
he has a loan.
Yeah,
for
hey,
that
I got somebody
option,
for you.
Right?
I got this.
We can't tell you how many Nick and his team have sent over our way that say like, hey, I'm going to buy this little rental, and then like 2 years pass like this, and he's like, hey, remember that doctor that rented out this? Like they need $1 million home here, right. And I'm like. Oh, that was cool because we treated the renter, at residency the same way we treat the $1 million buyer.
Correct.
And people don't like. Again, we think it's one of the untapped resources, and we've had a couple agents on that. We're like, that is it's free money, right? And then it's a repeat client, especially when you're starting your business off. We've had everyone from single parents to doctors, open heart surgeons.
Mm-hmm.
Like
a lot of realtors will try to say like, oh, I'm too busy for that. Like. Mike McCain's too busy for rentals, right? But he probably still handles.
I'm sure he's got a whole department that handles.
But like if you're not like if you're not like this big team leader and you're not doing a ton of transactions where you're doing stuff every single day, you're not too busy for it.
No,
because it's future marketing. Because those same people will say like I'm too busy for it. Well, then we'll also pay for marketing and do this and do that. Well, why don't you get paid for a marketing deal that's going to come back to you?
Correct.
Why don't you get paid $1,000 or $2,000? Especially with nowadays rents. Sometimes rents are up to $5, $6, $7 grand.
The way I see it is, would you rather be sitting in an office, not interacting with someone, picking up a phone, cold calling, or door knocking, or make the lead a warm one with a rental? That's my thought process on it. I don't know if it's that easy.
And you can meet people along the way. What if you see another neighbor there or see somebody
Renters
else?
are the best, right? Like when you get your first place, you're telling everybody under the freaking sun how it happened. Like I'm not on my parents' couch anymore.
Right. Like I got my own space.
Like I'm an adult kind of, and I'm telling everybody who I used.
Yes.
And like those that your age group too, like if they're renting a place, right? You should put, get a mailing list, like those calendars, like the magnet calendars on their fridge, right? With the Phillies schedule. Like, well, let's not talk about the Phillies. I'm so
we are fresh off the loss.
That wound is an open gash right now, right? But like the Eagles schedules, the Flyers schedules, like they're seeing it. They're having people over their house. Like young people are having people over their house all the time on the weekends and stuff like that. And they might see like, who's this fucking guy Doug on this Phillies calendar?
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So like it like that kind of stuff works.
That's how it does. It does. And I've had, to your guys' point, I've had renters. I mean, one of my first renters, I won't say her name, but when I first started out, and I didn't know her at all, and she was moving here from Florida, and I helped her out. She ended up getting a boyfriend, so I helped her out with her and her boyfriend's rental. And then she texted me, and this is when I had my license with the state, but she texted me about maybe 2 years ago and was like, "Hey, are you still in real estate?" Like she still remembered me, and I hadn't contacted her at all since we did the last deal. So I mean, it's right exactly to you guys' point. I mean, why not? Why not? If you can make that experience memorable and continue to build on that, stay in touch, do the whole thing. They're there. They're there for. I mean, if you're a good person and you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you got into it for the right reasons, right? Like a lot of people got in during the boom. Just to sell, right? And that's fine because people get in and get out of industries. That happens all the time.
Absolutely.
And people that get in and out are just not always typically bad. They're just in it for the money sometimes.
I want to say it's like almost like damn near close, like high 90 percentile of the people that got in during COVID are gone.
And it's easier doing business with people, obviously, that get into it the right reasons, because you don't have to go through the whole mission statement and what your vision is. The vision's to get the client into the house in the right terms, make everybody feel good, but keep moving, right? Correct. Like you want to get good reviews, you're referral based. So it's like anything else. If you put 30 days into something, you want it to work out right. You want it to execute the plan. At least me and my team execute the plan the way we want. And if not, we're pretty upset at ourselves, right? And like how we can get better. So the real life experience is great because you got your ass kicked, I'm sure, when you were just getting into it.
For sure.
You're questioning every decision you've ever made in your life. I know how hard it is, right? Like, because I have agents that just simply say, I can't do it anymore. Like they get burnt. But you got in, you got out, and now... So you have your first-time home buyers coming up. Is that what you're kind of envisioning? Like, hey, that's going to be my niche to kind of start this thing off? Yeah,
that'll definitely be my next thing. And, my plan, there's plans to kind of build out some different social media things and kind of, get the word out. But
there you go. This is it.
Start educating. This
is your content.
Well, this is, this is a great opportunity.
Honestly, and this is one of those things, like I said all the time, I never did a podcast before, never was on camera before, but it's things like this where I can learn a little bit about the title game, right?
Well, that's it.
And meet guys that I otherwise wouldn't meet, because to me, this is prospecting at an elevated form, right? Like you're honoring people, you're finding out what they do, and I'm not bothering someone by just calling their phone trying to sell some shit.
Correct.
Right? Like I've never been good at that anyway. I don't think that style of sales will ever work for me. So this is like that elevated kind of prospecting. So enjoy the content from Danny too, because it's world class. But and getting into it at that 25, 26 level, I know we're not supposed to talk ages and things like that in our industry. Yeah, but like, look, that's your book of business.
That's true.
There you're going to be your renter, your first-time buyer, your investment buyer, your vacation.
Here's the other thing too.
Or people's parents.
Exactly.
That's what it's getting into. Like your parents' age groups, right?
Yes.
They're going to start downsizing, right? So you'll start seeing a lot of your friends' parents that had these suburban homes.
Yep.
All their kids are out of the house. They're empty nesters now, and now they're like, you know what? We don't need this big house anymore. No. Let's sell this and let's get something else. Let's downsize, or let's get a vacation home and a condo here, and then you can represent them with that. So like, don't only pigeonhole yourself to just people your age.
Like first time home
you
buyers,
also
right?
have all the parents that that trusted you being in their homes when you're in high school and college and all that stuff, and know you by first name and all that stuff. You got to tell them too, like, hey, make sure you tell your parents that I'm an agent.
And now that's a great point from Nick,
Absolutely.
because think about it this way: like during that refi boom, one of the refi booms, the most recent ones, that's how I got into that 55 kind of 60. The empty nester, kid at college. As I got my Tennessee hat on today. But no, what happened was, hey, money was cheap. These guys are original owners, or they live there. Refi the whole neighborhood at 2-3%, right? They pull all their money out instead of hitting their retirement accounts. They buy beach houses.
Yeah.
Then they're telling everybody down the beach how they got the house. They're telling their wins. That's how the referral works. That's a little secret sauce for you. So keep an eye. Obviously, you and I will communicate when kind of rates drop, but that's a great strategy for young agents. Like, hey, I've noticed like you have a 4,000 square foot home. It's just the two of you. Like,
Maybe
I've had clients been able to pull from this house, potentially not even sell it, and get their forever or their beach house.
Yeah,
or their
the beach
mountain
house they always
or their
wanted,
Florida home. Well, you probably get Florida pretty cheap, and that's not to make light of what the hell happened down there.
I mean, the other thing you got to think of too is like shitty situations in life. Deaths. You have to look at deaths as business opportunities, right?
Divorces.
My wife laughs because like I'm looking at funerals like there's an opportunity here. Nobody wants to talk about that, but there's a fucking opportunity here for business, right?
It sucks. I don't like it.
Divorce, there's business opportunities. So like, although there's shitty, I mean, listen, death is the only thing guaranteed in life, but there's shitty situations that happen in life, right? Well, instead of looking at it as such a shitty situation, there's a time and a place to approach these people, right? It can't be like while they're crying on the casket. Now, I'm not going to say that I haven't had an agreement of sale signed at a funeral, because I have, right?
But it's the truth. But look, you could be helping somebody out too. We're making
like,
a joke of it, but
that
you
was
could
the
really
only
be
time
helping somebody
that was the only time like all the family would be together,
Right.
and boom, hey, let's talk
Yeah,
and sign.
speaking
right?
of estate, if
So-
there's 4 siblings there and they all want 25 grand, you're
right.
going to sign wherever.
So
the hell
like,
they need.
so like they need to know. Like you're talking about getting into social media and all that stuff. They need to know that you're a realtor, right? They need to know that you can help them. And hey, people get divorced. Like, well, now the guy might have to go rent a place for a year or two, let the dust settle, and then he goes and buys a place. You help him rent, and then you help him buy.
Yep.
Or they may have to sell their house, and then she buys a house, and he buys a house. Now the opportunity where you're going to represent both of those people is usually slim to none, because the breakup and all that stuff. But you're 25, you're not seeing that so much now, but you're going to start seeing it, right? And there's opportunities for sales, especially in real estate, not just the good parts of life, in the shitty parts of life.
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct. That's a good point. That's a great point.
Yeah, he puts it that way, because I always, I'll see a younger guy and I get tunnel vision, like, oh, so much in first-time home buyer action, right?
Yes.
But no, there's avenues everywhere, and we're glad to kind of touch on some of those strategies. Hopefully you can implement some of those, and you and I will keep it going. But as we move forward and wrap up the show, tell us your information, tell us where we can find you, and tell us what's next. Like, are you going for real estate title? You doing both? Like, let us know.
Yeah. I'm going for both.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
really, at this point, the real estate thing is, obviously I have my primary responsibility to my title agents and fidelity, but I'm gonna explore and see what I can do in the real estate space as well. And I think I have some plans in place. I still have to figure out what that might be, but I'm definitely gonna start getting the word out, letting people know what I do. Let them know that I'm back into the real estate industry, and if they ever just want to, have a conversation and just learn a little bit about more. I mean, that's going to be my main goal, is the transparency of teaching the consumer about what parts are involved when you are looking ready to buy. So,
I mean, you'll find your way into it, but like, just be genuine. Be like genuinely you. Like, you see a lot of people want to have like these alter egos on social media, and then you meet the person in person, and
they're
like,
stiff.
that's not fucking you.
Right. They're stiff.
Just be you.
They can't talk.
Be you, because it's always easy to sell you.
It is. And I always try to be.
Yeah, you're always the same
genuinely
guy.
me.
I mean, you're in it for the right reasons, and you're going to have. I know already you have a great starting career, and I can't wait to see what happens next, and we can establish a partnership going forward. So we'll throw your name up there. But Doug, it was awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Really,
I
really
appreciate
great.
it.
Thanks again as always for a lot of kind of playing back and forth here. But for another episode of the Atomic Real Estate Show, Ryan Dolan, Nick Cessna, and Doug Carpenter. We'll see you later.
If you enjoyed our episode, please consider supporting the show by rating and reviewing the podcast.
Also, check us out on Instagram at Atomic Real Estate Show to find out when new shows drop and to participate in our community Q&As. The Atomic Real Estate Show was brought to you by Direct Subs. Direct Subs is the #1 place for real estate investors to connect with local contractors for their flips, rentals, renovations, and new construction projects.